All right, going off of all that, everything we just talked about, all the draft nuggets, so on and so forth, as we've alluded to a dozen times on this podcast, dropped my third mock draft yesterday. Not going to lie, I think it was pretty good. At this point in the offseason, I look at things and just say that if you follow the breadcrumbs, if you follow the trail, it will lead you to at least where they're headed. It doesn't have to be the exact pick, but it's where they're headed.
Right.
The breadcrumbs are super, super there. So just to break down, I'll break down my top 4 picks here. Joey Porter Jr. at 17 out of Penn State. We've come full circle. Started with Joey Porter Jr., tried to go every other direction. It came back to Joey Porter Jr. I took away from Tomlin saying Patrick Peterson is going to mentor somebody and that he's going to play safety, as the Steelers don't really care about a safety. They want a corner. They want a star corner that they could turn into something unbelievable, the next superstar on the outside who could work with Levi Wallace for the next couple of years if they keep Levi Wallace around, who will work with Patrick Peterson this year, doesn't have to start immediately, but will make a huge impact. That guy. Joey Porter Jr., if he is available at 17, which is still a question mark, but if he is available at 17, the Steelers are going to look at this kid and they're going to say he is a super, super good human being. He is just a good guy, educated kid, has a good head on his shoulders. That's exactly what they're looking for. Physical freak. Fits every single physical element that you are looking for in a corner. Like that guy, he's just the guy when it comes to his physical attributes there. Add the fact that he's going to learn from Patrick Peterson for 2 years, learn from Minkah Fitzpatrick, and his dad, who played for the Pittsburgh Steelers, lives in town. That is just the combination for success. If Joey Porter Jr. is going to succeed anywhere, it's going to be in Pittsburgh. The Steelers know that. If he's there at 17, easiest pick in the world. No questions about it. Easiest pick they could possibly make. At 32, North Carolina wide receiver Josh Downs, as we talked about earlier. You tell somebody that they have the cleanest workout you've ever seen. You obviously have a very high grade on this guy. At 32, I don't expect Jordan Addison to still be there. I don't expect Zay Flowers to still be there. I think Josh Downs is a guy that maybe he's not the next wide receiver on the list, but I think he's close enough that the Steelers feel very comfortable with bringing him in. He's got inside-outside movement. He's, capable of doing anything you'd want him to do on a football field, and I think he's a sleeper. On top of that, they have 2 North Carolina guys already. They seem to like their North Carolina athletes these days. Trends are always a thing with the Pittsburgh Steelers, and I just think that he's an option there, and it allows you to utilize those 2 slot guys, but also have 2 slot guys that can work outside as well. Calvin Austin might be 5'9.5" and the smallest wide receiver on a football field, but he could play outside, and he's proven it all throughout college. Josh Downs is the same way. Sticking in the second round, pick 49, I got Jamie Robinson out of Florida State. I think at this point you draft a safety, not too high on the list, but still good ones that are very, very available. I also put a disclaimer in here. I think that it could be J.R. Brown out of Penn State. They went and visited him at his pro day the other day. They sent Terrell Austin and Grady Brown. I just think that safety's a very valuable pick here at 49. There's still all the safeties that you want on the board outside of probably Brian Branch. I think that Jamie Robinson's a guy who could play the nickel. He could play the slot. He's versatile. That's who they're looking for. That versatile chess piece to come in here, be able to play either safety position, also be able to play the slot if they need to put him in the slot. He can work behind everybody, but you're not risking jumping the gun on one of these guys. I think Robinson's a guy who, he's been kind of quiet on draft boards recently. If he's there at 49, I think he's an easy pick who could come in here, doesn't have to start year 1, but could probably start year 2 and make that jump. Pick 3, I've sat on this pick for 3 mock drafts now, and I'm not changing it. It's Siaka Ika out of Baylor, big dude in the middle. The draft works out so perfectly for the Pittsburgh Steelers when it comes to their defensive line, because nobody's stressing about the fact that they haven't added a defensive lineman. Like they're walking into the season right now without a nose tackle. The entire draft, outside of like a handful of guys, are all nose tackles. They are just Javon Hargrave built giant human beings who could plug the middle and they will all slide because of that. Nobody is gung-ho. Nobody is gung-ho on a nose tackle. No team in the NFL is like, I have to draft this guy in the second round. I have to draft this guy in the first round. Everybody will sit because it's the easiest position to plug somebody into and just say, hey, what's your job? It's to stand right here. Just don't let anybody come right in the middle. It's
just take up space.
Take up space. And a lot of guys could take up space. I think that Ika is gonna slide like the rest of them. He's gonna sit there at 80. He is the perfect example of what the Steelers want in the middle. He's 335 pounds, giant human. Easy question. No questions about it. And then at pick 120 in round 4.
Love this next pick.
Dorian Williams, linebacker out of Tulane, very high on your list, a lot of other people's list. Dude is, I thought the Steelers, I still believe that the Steelers are very in on inside linebacker in the NFL draft. The difference is I think that free agency shaped out enough for them where at one point they thought they were going to have to hunt Trenton Simpson down. Now they believe that they could take their foot off the gas a little bit and slow it down. Dorian Williams is a dude who, he's a project, obviously, but he's a 4th round pick. Most 4th round picks are projects. On top of that, he's a former running back, right? Who has speed, has pass coverage ability. He's a hitter, doesn't mind thumping somebody if need be. There's no pressure for him to come in and play a huge role for the Steelers this season. Just kind of work him in with Mark Robinson, allow him to play special teams, replace Marcus Allen. Easy pick. There's no question he's going to be there at 120. I think that's honestly like a little bit of a reach for him, but I think that reach is worth it. I think the Steelers are all in on inside linebacker. It's just a matter of when they'll go inside linebacker.
Yeah, I mean, this was one of those guys at the Senior Bowl that just jumped right off the field. Like there was no missing him. He was really, really good. I love those picks. Especially the 4th round pick. These are all really good fits. I feel like, Porter's a slam dunk. Josh Downs, like we said, a new guy, like a kind of new guy on the Steelers radar, but wouldn't mind that at all. Same with Jamie Robinson. Hadn't really seen a whole lot of him kind of floating around the Steelers, but need a safety, need some DBs. And Siaka Ika, another like slam dunk, I feel like in that round and at that position. That was a guy who, if I'm not mistaken, had some like 1st round buzz.
A lot of 1st round buzz.
Right.
That's the thing. People are going to slide. Like these big bodies are going to, they're Jalen Carters and Will Andersons and Will McDonald's will go fast because edge rushers rule the NFL. Nobody, the fact that the list of defensive tackles to sign in free agency is so large is doing guys like Ika a whole lot of damage in the NFL draft. Yeah.
And do you want to run through your last 2 picks? Because I like these ones too when I was.
Yeah. So 7th round, 234. I have Brenton Strange, tight end out of Penn State. I think he, like I said, Alfredo Roberts showed up at his pro day. There's a reason there. I think it'd be weird if they triple dipped at Penn State if they went Porter Brown and Brenton Strange. Too many Penn State guys,
right?
But you never know. I just think that he's a developmental piece. I think he's a guy that he's not ready in year 1, but he could come in here and he could block for you if you need him to. He's not going to catch a ton of passes. He's got to grow, but that is exactly what you're looking for. You want to see what you get out of Zach Gentry this season. You want Pat Freiermuth to take a huge step forward, like a huge step forward this year. This should be Pat Freiermuth's like, I am a top 5 tight end in the NFL season. And I don't think Connor Hayward sticks at tight end. We talked about this the other day. I think that they're going to use him as a tweener, like in the slot, off tight end, maybe some fullback. But I expect Connor Hayward to be a positionless athlete for the Pittsburgh Steelers offense this season. And I think that's fine. Like, I think that works to Connor Hayward's strengths the most, but you bring in another tight end that you could develop. I don't know what Zach Gentry's deal is, but I have a very hard time believing it's longer than 2 years, if it's even 2 years. So I think Ben Strange is a guy that you could get late and feel very comfortable about it. And then Carl Brooks out of Bowling Green, man. The fact that this guy did not just skyrocket up draft boards after the Senior Bowl is bonkers. The guy had probably the second best performance of the week at the Senior Bowl, I would say, behind what's his name out of Northwestern that I can never pronounce his name.
Yeah, I can't remember that name either, but yeah,
No,
I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, but Carl Brooks went off. The dude had a phenomenal week. When I was going through this mock draft, I was actually looking at late round defensive tackles, and Carl Brooks' name came up, and I was like, there's no way this guy isn't being viewed as like a 4th or 5th round pick. Nope. There are some people that expect him possibly to go undrafted. I think if you could get him at 241 in that 7th round, even if you swap Bretton Strange and Carl Brooks,
right,
that dude's a steal. And I think he's got more upside than Isaiah Loudermilk. He could play in the middle if you need him to. I steal. Like a couple of years ago, they went Carlos Davis. People had very high hopes for Carlos Davis out of Nebraska. I think Carlos Davis could have turned into something and they liked him, but injuries kind of held him back. Brooks is another one of those guys that could come in here. He may be a little bit undersized, but it doesn't matter. Dude could play. He's a baller. When you put him on the field against high-end talent in places like the Senior Bowl, he balls out. I think that's a steal in the 7th.
Yeah. Yeah. I love a guy who has played both on the inside and the outside at 300 pounds. Like you don't find guys who move like him at that size very, very often. So I loved Carl Brooks when we saw him at Senior Bowl and would love to see him in the Steelers uniform later.
Yeah, I think that might be my favorite pick of the draft if he does get drafted there. But it just shows, like, just like I said with Ika, like guys like that, they're going to slide. They're going to slide because the big men in this draft are not going to go as high as people want them to be. They never do. They always slide. But in a draft this heavy, when it comes to defensive linemen and a lot of guys are this good, you're going to get some sleepers late. And I think Brooks is a dude, you'll see Carl Dunlap like come into the media room after the pick with a big smile on his face. And I could just see it. I could see it all happening now. So that's mock draft 3. I got at least another one, probably 2 more coming out in the next month just to finalize it. My final project's always my last one, or the final product, I call it. Last year, I got none of my picks right, but 2 years ago, I got almost all of them. So I just think that's the biggest difference is last year, I felt like we were guessing. There was no, outside of Malik Willis, you had no idea where the Pittsburgh Steelers were going to go. They just gave no signs. This year, for some reason, they're just like, hey, guys,
here's our draft
plan. Yeah, like have fun, like enjoy the ride. This is fun. And I think 2 years ago, they did this as well, or a couple of years ago, they did this as well. Chase Claypool's draft, they did it heavy, and it was easy to see they were going Chase Claypool. And I think it's the same this year with some of the positions. It's just a matter of identifying which guy they're going to go for at that position. So